Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's Dave Sharpe. Welcome to Wake Up Legendary. And this morning, my friends, we have another amazing guest, a returning guest, actually. Care is a full-time osteopathic manual therapist who's building a genuine connection with her audience online, building her business. She's a second-time guest on the show. She's really proud of what she's built. We're proud of what she's built as well, and we can't wait to learn more about it this morning. My friends, feel free to chime in on the comments as usual. Don't need to give you permission to do that. You know where the box is at. Show some love. Say good morning. Welcome yourself as you come in, and let us welcome you as well. And feel free to leave comments and questions along the way as the episode moves on. With that being said, let's bring in Care. Please help me welcome to the legendary virtual Wake Up Legendary stage. Care, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Where are you calling in from? Remind us.
Canada.
Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh,
Canada. Girl.
Beautiful. Love it. So you and your husband are osteopathic therapists. Is that correct?
That's right. So we're Canadian. So we're not doctors. We must clarify this.
Really?
Yeah. In the States, you have to go through medical training. Here, it's kind of a private practice manual therapy thing. It's just a little different. That's all.
Gotcha. Well, either way, we're impressed and we love it. So I'm a high school dropout. So, I mean, it's not like, I'm impressed by anybody who did any form of schooling and has like a real professional job. So good for you. So why in the heck do you want to, play over here in the wild, wild west of internet marketing? Remind us about that desire and motivation to get in, started with this in the first place.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of being an osteo, that's kind of the tagline. We're an osteos, or we are osteos. We are self-employed in our industry. And so, which is great. And we bill at a great hour, and that's wonderful. But we have 2 little kids, and kids get sick, and then you have to cancel your day and stay home with them. And, it's just, there's always this trading time for money. And so we always, and then of course, in all of that, just to throw in a little fun thing, the pandemic shut down our clinic for 3 months. So when that happened, we kind of had always known this would be a little bit, there's pros and cons, and this was one of the cons of being self-employed. But when that pandemic hit, we were kind of like, we need some options here to make sure, because we do love our careers. We worked hard to have them. And so, yeah, I started looking online in the wild, wild west and found your beautiful face along the way. But the initial plan, yeah, there it is, Vogue. We were planning to do, and we still are planning to do, digital courses within our actual industry and profession. We just are building kind of our resume and our chops with that, just to make sure we've got some experience and things to teach our community, right? But of course, when I got to Legendary, we were kind of taught about many different core 4 models, as you know, and affiliate marketing being one of them. And I kind of, I thought, hey, wait a minute, this is something, because I don't have to create the product. It's already a product that's being sought after. Let's do the dang thing. So here we are. Oh, I can't hear you.
That's because I muted myself. I like to do that at least 5 times a show just to, show how technically handicapped I am. High school. Okay, so my qualifications are stacking up over here. High school dropout, technically challenged, doesn't know how to mute and unmute himself. Here we go. So what has been interesting for you now that give us a timeline too. When did you get started?
So I actually started with the challenge in February 2023. So a year and a half ago.
Okay. So, what has been surprising to you in what did you not expect this journey to bring up or for you to experience? Has it brought out some sort of limiting belief that you didn't know that you had that you've needed to work through? Has a certain part of this whole thing been a molehill that you made a mountain out of when you were starting? What's been a couple of interesting takeaways that you did not expect?
Well, it's just a wild journey, right? Like, here's this traditional education, go get your job and be, and my husband and I have built really, really lovely reputations. We've done okay. But, the internet comes along and you're like, oh gosh, are people going to find me? So there's this limiting belief of like, oh, I don't want to say a failure, but this is a different path to create an income. And some may think now in 2024 it's gotten better, but a couple of years ago it was like, you're becoming an influencer. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is a business model. So that there was a limiting belief there, that the fear of judgment, for sure. Mm. And that has been interesting because now I won't say it's my superpower, but I kind of challenge it quite a bit. So when someone who's like, we have a friend who's a traditional corporate businessman, and he's like, but how does this work? And I'm like, well, you want the numbers? You want the business model? Here's how it works. And he's like, oh, like this isn't just people being like, look at my dental floss. I'm like, no, people are making money. So that's been fun. That's been a learning curve that I'm like, no, now I find empowerment in that. And it's interesting. What I have found throughout this, speaking of you being a high school dropout, I actually wasn't a great student in my whole life because I never really found something I loved until I found, obviously, my passion in my profession. And so what I'm finding in this is I've really fallen in love with it. It's so out of my professional life. I purposely did that. I didn't want anything to be associated with that for now. And I have fallen in love with helping people learn how to do this and give them this, again, this word empowerment just keeps coming up. So they've just been surprises that I would love it that much. And I truly do. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. And, it's also kind of outside of the box, right? For you too. Like you've been the typical and traditional, you and your husband, like good little boy, good little girl, get good grades, get an awesome job, right? Yeah. Even though you weren't such a bad student, I think you were better than I was. And now you're doing something that even your like corporate other successful friends are like, this is outside of the box, like, and that's when somebody doesn't really understand something, they tend to kind of make those. It doesn't mean they don't respect it. I want everybody to be clear about this. When people make passive aggressive, condescending comments, like still doing that little internet thing, that doesn't mean that they don't respect it. It means that they don't understand it. And when they don't understand something, they feel dumb. And so they want to try to make you feel dumb, right? Now, this is not in every situation, right? But I'm talking about deep down subconsciously. I don't understand what you're doing. And it takes, I'm not saying that all of the people who make these comments aren't big people, but it takes a big person to say, man, I really am curious about what you're doing. I just don't understand it. Like that takes a unique communication skill and the right amount of humility and the right amount of everything to ask, although it sounds simple. So a lot of times people will just say, still do, how's that little thing going for you? Or still doing that little internet thing or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not that they don't respect it. It's that they don't understand it. And people can secretly respect you and still kind of talk in a condescending way or whatever. And, so going back to kind of the point about with you having this reputation, this good reputation in your town and being a osteo and having this practice, how did you and do you navigate that concern that we all have that I'm going to be seen and judged by not just my friends and this pal who's another professional who is a corporate business guy and he's a friend of the family, yada yada. But others that could potentially be clients or patients or peers within the community, how do you navigate that? How did you get over that? How do you deal with those feelings that come up around that? And also,
Well,
I'd like, how have those feelings evolved, right? How did
yeah.
you view it at the beginning, and where are you at with it now?
Well, that was my biggest fear. Truly, that was my biggest fear, is either patients finding out, colleagues finding out, or something like that. And what ended up happening was actually quite a beautiful thing, right? Our fears are always so much bigger than they actually are, right? And so I remember the first time my husband actually, I'll say, spilled the beans in a sense, right? So we kind of said, you know what? If people find me, people find me. Let's just see what happens here. But like, again, if you have the right SEO and the right target audience and all that stuff, most of those people really aren't in it unless they're looking to make money online, for me. Okay. And it's really interesting because my husband was with a colleague of ours and he kind of just like, it slipped in there and they were like, wait, what? She does what? And he's like, yeah, she just has this thing and she's got all these followers. And they're like, oh my gosh. And so that kind of opened up not a floodgates of people being like, what do you do? But this person in particular is quite a respectable colleague and we really appreciate her. And she just said, so tell me more about this. And I said, okay. So I told her. It's very similar to what you were kind of just saying. It takes a lot of respect. And she had her concerns because she wanted to make sure that professionally I wasn't crossing any boundaries and like telling all my patients to go do this or, something like that, encouraging people if it was outside of my scope of practice in a sense. But, after that, it kind of got this, well, and I can hear, she's not saying it. I can hear her going, I can do that. Wait a minute. And so we kind of started talking about business ideas and how that could work and how we could do this in our profession and where the red tape is and all those kinds of things. Because of course our profession's a little different. Then, so that was kind of okay, got through that. Then some other colleagues kind of started going, hey, I saw your stuff. What are you doing? Well, this is what's happening. Is it really doing so? Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a bit more. Okay. Because a lot of people who are my colleagues are having babies and they're going off work and they're self-employed and they're not going to have money. So there's lots of questions around that. Then finally, my very first patient found me. And I remember she brought it up and she said, hey, I saw your stuff. What's that about? And I said, well, you're here. And I mean, obviously I kept it pretty professional. And I said, if you have any questions outside of this, by all means, you can ask. This is your appointment. We won't embark on that about this. But I said, yeah, this is what I do because the reality is I'm self-employed. And the irony of it is I've had to cancel on her because my kid has been sick. So she actually knew the weight of what we do and how it works with a family and a growing family. So that is how that has happened and evolved to a point where I'm confident. Anyone can call me right now and ask me, and I have no issues with it. However, it was a huge fear, but I feel very fortunate that my first interaction about it was very receptive and very respectable. And I can't say that that's the case for everyone. There's so many people out there who are being judged and they have to push through that. So I've been really, really lucky, but I definitely stand in confidence now that I'm like, yeah, I have this and I have this. I have my cake and I eat it too. And it's wonderful.
And that's, even if somebody did, this is the challenge that we all face. Can't remember what must have been a guest on Wake Up Legendary this week who said something about some product or owner of a business. I wonder if anybody can remember what that story was. But anyways, he got rejected something like 5,000 times and now he's a billionaire, right? And it's like, friends, the bottom line here is that entrepreneurship, building your own business, paving your own path, doing anything that's going to bring any sort of, big results. Was it Dyson? Oh, the Dyson vacuum cleaner, Bonnie King on with the, I mean, just bringing it. Just the, oh, Canada.
Go, Canada.
There you go. Yeah, Bonnie always on it. But anyways, you know, wow, it's like you're going to take some heat, man. I mean, you're going to take some judgment. You're going to take some criticism. It's why being an entrepreneur requires that you thicken up your skin a little bit.
That's right.
And you don't have to become cold-hearted, but you need to really not take things personal, because people like all, this is a great life lesson. This is not just about business, but anytime as you know, in long-term recovery and have been involved in lots of different groups and things over the 15 years that I've been in recovery, 15, 16 years. And, I'm in a group with a bunch of really successful entrepreneurs and business guys and just guys in general. We travel the country to each other's houses and hang out for the weekend. And, one of the things that's real kind of prevalent and known in that group, because these guys are sharp, no pun intended, is that all feedback is projection. I want to say that again for those of you who are listening, and I want you to listen closely to this, is that everything that everybody says near is projection. It's them projecting their own feelings, experience, and every word is filtered through their own life experience. They only know what they know. And maybe they failed at something, so you doing something, triggers them, right? Or maybe they had a bad experience, or again, a lot of what we heard growing up around money and around the limiting beliefs that we formed because of what we saw and heard growing up was our parents or our caregivers projecting their own beliefs. That's why I challenge and invite everybody to look at, what do you believe on a daily basis? And if you don't, a lot of times we believe things that aren't even our beliefs, and it's okay to give those back to whoever gave them to you, and now you don't physically like, hey, Dad, here's this, but it's kind of like, it's a practice of spirituality almost, and self-care, to say, I'm not going to carry around this limiting belief anymore, that I'm not worthy of success, or that I'm not worthy of love, or that I have to just people please and be at everybody's beck and call all the time because my needs are not important. Because maybe you saw your mom run around and do that her whole life. Growing up, she never took care of herself. There was 5 kids in the house. And maybe you think that your role is to just go around and take care of everybody else. So you always feel, frustrated and under the surface resentful, right? So it's like, that I need to give that back, because there was nobody there to help her, to tell her to go take care of herself and to do proper self-care, and maybe even learn what self-care was. Or maybe you saw the same with your dad, that he just ran around and his only worth was to bring home a paycheck. You see how this can go deep. But my point is that, do I believe that my only worth is a paycheck? Right? No, I don't. You can learn a lot about fatherhood just on Instagram, just scrolling Instagram, for God's sakes. They didn't have that. And so when we're hearing, back to the point, which is when we're hearing comments from people, it's always projection. It's always being filtered through their own life experience. And that, if we take that to heart, we need to just, what I call, eat the meat and leave the bones. And a lot of times if you look at a plate of ribs, there's a lot more bones than there is meat. I mean, the weight is like, holy crap, look at all these bones, right? A rack of ribs is like, there's a lot of bones there. So everything everybody says is not worth taking to heart. And the road to entrepreneurship is much about eating the meat and leaving the bones, and learning how to navigate, you building your own belief system, realizing what other people's belief system that they're projecting onto you, and then also giving back old limiting beliefs to previous people in your life as you build new ones. Does that resonate with you? What comes up for you listening to that?
Totally. Well, and I mean, the way you create an income has evolved completely from our parents, right? So these systems, and whether it's subconscious or it's been told to us, it doesn't matter. What we have viewed is and our I'm 38 years old. And so I grew up with the baby boomers as my parents. And it's like, you work hard and you go physically to work. And that's how it is. They didn't have the internet until they were all already professionals. It's so funny when I talk to people and they're like, yeah, but do people really make money with that? And like, they genuinely, we know in our generation, we know people are making money, but we have this subconscious disbelief because no one we knew growing up did that. And so we are like in this weird transition of, there's so many different ways to make money. There is no longer just the lawyer, the doctor, the nurse, the teacher. There's so many jobs that people are just so, I'll say, becoming conscious to, but they're naive to believe that like there's just no way you could do that. And it's just so interesting to see that like almost internal tug of war with people who have become modernized again in our generation, that know it is true, but refuse to believe it because they think they could do it, but they don't want to do it because it's never been done in their house. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like this. I feel we're in this transition. Whereas the young kids, oh my gosh, they all want to do this. It's just so funny. And just their idea of what a job is or what they want to be is so different. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who hold judgment on those kids going, you're not going to be a YouTuber. You can't be a doctor and on Instagram. It's like, no, you're behind if you're not. So it's just this, it's so, yeah. Well, I love a hat throw every now and then, you know, Dave. But it's, you know, even in my profession, okay, so we are still in the traditional bones of my profession. That's fine. But I sit on a committee and I'm sitting there going, guys, the next fight, oh, double hat, look at you, we're rallying here. But if we don't have a presence, if we don't have a message, then what are we doing here? You know? And so people are behind if they're not keeping up, put it that way.
Very true, very true. New heat, bringing new styles.
That's a good look.
Thank you. I try to push the boundaries a little bit.
You should. It's like a new version of the bucket hat.
Yeah, I try to push the boundaries. There you got the forward and the right. And of course, I'm the new coach of my son's t-ball team, so I've got to teach him all the rally hats and all the different kind of ways to wear your hat, because we're going for a championship. I know there are only 3, but we're going for a championship.
Obviously, we got to get the W.
Yeah, all W's. So, I mean, this is just such a wonderful way to both work on building a business and earning extra side full-time income, but also growing so much as a person. And I really, warn all of you who are coming into this and getting into this, you are going to learn things about yourself throughout this process that you never, ever could have learned in a job or in school. And, instead of being addicted to struggle and instead of attaching, because the beautiful thing about life is you get to attach whatever meaning you want to any given situation. That's how powerful you are. And you actually don't realize how powerful you are. Neither did I. But I literally could attach any meaning to any situation that I want. I mean, and we call people crazy for this, and sometimes they are, but other times it's like, it's like, well, I just saw that person, so that just must mean that, I'm on the right path, right? Or we a lot of times, everything can be a coincidence to somebody's life, or for others, it's like, well, that means something, right? You know how when you start taking the signs, and you do this in life too, so it's not that abnormal. We all do this. We're like, well, that must be a sign, but a lot of times we do it negatively. It's like a storm will roll in and we're on the construction job. Well, that must mean it's time to pack it in. It's like, no, we're working inside, that's not a sign, right? But I mean, we could take it as a sign, or it's a full moon. So that must, right? There's people who have whole practices around things, things are happening in the earth and the moon is shifting. And there's somebody probably dead serious about this on the call. They're like, that's a real thing, Dave, right? Because they are so serious about attaching meaning. And I believe that it is. I believe that you believe. Let's just put it like that. And so the same thing can happen inside of your business. Every single thing that happens, it's like, well, I didn't make any sales today. Oh, well, that means that I must not be cut out for this. Or that means one must be coming. Shit, because if I ain't had a sale today or yesterday, that must mean one's coming, right? I could in the same breath with the same amount of energy attach the meaning that, well, I haven't had a sale in a couple of days. That must mean this is dead or that I'm never going to make it, right? And I think that's the kind of challenge of entrepreneurship is that you don't now have that boss that's casting the vision for you. You now have to cast the vision for yourself. Now, you're a business owner there with your osteo practice, but also how has this being an online entrepreneur, what are some of the ways in which you have created new meaning and needed to be the visionary of your business? Because after all, nobody's coming to save you and nobody else is. You are the CEO and the chief bottle washer. You are the CEO and the AWeber funnel builder, customer service, social media manager. You're the one person that does it all at first. And so how has that been a huge positive for you? And how's that also been challenging for you?
Well, the challenges, I think, are fairly obvious that it's a juggling act. Obviously, I'm also a mom of a 5 and a 2-year-old. So, there's that hat as well. It's been interesting because professionally, we call us old school, again, traditional dinosaurs over here, but we just moved to like digital charting and things like that. And just like actually evolving, even in a traditional business at a snail's pace along the way. That has evolved that. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like I've tried to, okay, what I will say has changed is I see everything as a business now. Before I kind of had creative entrepreneur brain ideas, but now I actually know how to move that into action because I understand, and you always say this, the dynamics and the mechanics. Now I've always been able to see the dynamics. Now I can see like how we can take dynamics and put it into like action with the mechanics. And I get this all the time because of course, now that people are picking up on what I do, whether it's people I know or not, they're going, okay, well, I was thinking about this. And I'm like, okay, let's talk more. How would you do that? Da, da, da. So I never used to be able to do that because I didn't even know what a sales funnel was. Like I had no clue. I had gone through 8 million of them because I like to shop online like any normal human being, but I didn't know that was a thing. And so now I've explained obviously multiple times to people how that works. And so I would say from an evolvement standpoint, that for sure is like, I can actually see how things can come through. And what's interesting too, is it's like so sad when you see people go, okay, cool, that's a good idea. And then they just like, and that like, or I shouldn't say, but they've said like, yeah, but I won't do it. And you're like, but that's a real business. You could do that. And so from an evolvement standpoint, I for sure would say that that's kind of how now I can actually see it come to life. And whether they actually do it or not is, I don't know. It's tricky sometimes.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of traditional dinosaurs in the comments who are relating to those. And again, back to my attaching meaning to something.
Yeah.
Friends, you don't have to be, you don't have to be some young buck to succeed in this. Instead of telling yourself, well, I'm a dinosaur and that's why I can't do this, say, I'm a dinosaur and I bring a unique angle and specific wisdom out to the internet in a sea of young bucks, right? And what I can tell you about seeing older people, right? When I say older, I mean our age and older, right? Because hello, look at all that wisdom on my face. It's like when we when people out there on the internet see us older folks, doing middle-aged to older folks on the internet, crushing it, doing, creating content, it's cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool, right? And you don't have to be highly polished and produced in order to, it's just about getting the damn content out there. And I'd like to transition a little bit and talk about your content and talk about how that's evolved and some of your social media marketing tips. What's kind of what have you learned, and where are you putting your focus at now in terms of your marketing efforts? What's been something that, if you were to say, this worked really well in 2023, and this is kind of more what I'm focusing on in 2024, kind of what would that be? Let's talk a little social media marketing.
Well, first off, in 2023, I was just a little pup, I didn't know what I was doing. And so you're just kind of the copy paste stuff, the like, I don't know, I won't say like dancing. I didn't do that kind of stuff, but like, whatever. People are, and the polished, oh, that's a big change. Lots of people in 2022, 2023 really like this perfect Pinteresty kind of life, right? Like it's just this perfect, picture perfect. Now people want real. And so I would say now short form content is obviously king.
What does that mean? Define that for people. Like when you say short form content is king, can you be more specific with that?
So people have short attention spans. And so if you cannot have short form videos or content is, obviously Instagram, I shouldn't say obviously, Instagram only allows you to make 90-second videos for your reels. And so it has to be 90 seconds or less. And in a perfect world, 10 seconds. Good luck on that one. And so I try to catch people. You got to catch them quickly. What works for me right now is something either super relatable. I've been using lots of memes. Yep, that's the word. See, I don't even know when I'm making them. Memes and GIFs, I think, or is it GIFs? Either way. Those are really popular because they're relatable and people can take the situation that's familiar to them. And if I add on how it's related to my niche, then they go, oh, okay, I see. Because they can relate to the emotion and the pain point or whatever it may be. What also is working is a hit. And I mean a hit of reality, like a dose of reality of like the income of a four-person family, the cost of living, like those kind of like, people are like, yeah, that's for real. And for me, I show up as me. I don't try to hide anything. I'm a hot mess working mom who's been able to do the whole crazy grind and actually be able to pull back and but still have my career, which of course is not super relatable to everybody, but to a certain crowd that is, and maybe, I don't know, maybe relatable because a lot of people don't ever think that this could blow up and they could leave their job. So some people think, oh, you could do both. Of course you could. So the content that's really hitting is facts, hitting them with a dose of reality and relatability.
And when you hit them with a dose of reality, one thing that I see that works in one way to do that doesn't work is if you're kind of being condescending to people as if you've got it figured out and they don't. That dose of reality kind of doesn't work as well because nobody wants to kind of be shamed or talked down to, which I feel like new marketers sometimes come in, and that's like the vibe that you give off is like, it's not coming from a place of vulnerability. I talked about this with a lady yesterday who I felt, and we determined it was true, that she was kind of scared of being vulnerable, right? Yep. And I actually recommended the book Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And if you don't want to read the whole book, just go check out some of her content. She's got a lot of TED Talks and YouTube videos. Brene Brown, Brena Brown. And she creates a lot of content on vulnerability, specifically in leadership in business. And that is certainly a difference in 2024 compared to 1984 in how we lead businesses and attract kind of an audience. It works much better through vulnerability nowadays than it does through, kind of being a dominant leader, right? Somebody who kind of yells at people or motivates people through fear. And so this content where you're giving people a dose of reality, I think it works well for you because you're also not afraid to be vulnerable. And even though you're a osteo or you've got this wonderful medical career and are a authority figure already, right? You don't use that all the time or need to say that all the time. You kind of take people behind the scenes of your regular relatable life. And that hits because people know that you're sharing something that is real for you, it's real for them. And really, no matter how much you make, it's if you have kids and you're trying to save for retirement and not be silly with money, you're always going to be affected by prices and affected by the economy. So does that feel like it fits for you? And how have you embraced vulnerability? I'd like you to speak on that for a moment, if you would, for those men and women out here who do have powerful messages and could create more relatable content, but are struggling with being vulnerable.
Well, and you're bang on, because it's one of those things where people would look at me. I've been told people would look at me and go, she's got it all figured out. She's an osteo. She's married. She's got the house. She's got the kids. She's got it all, oh, and now she's doing this idol. She's making all this money. Great. Good for her. And I'm sitting there going, no, guys, I'm doing this because I don't have it figured out. I don't have the bank account you think I do. I mean, trust me, I've worked hard to get where we are. We're certainly okay, but don't we all want to be better? Like, don't like we all have people in our life who you can just tell the second they move in the room, yeah, everything's great. And you're like, come on, man, what's really going on? My husband just turned 40 and all of his buddies are like, okay. And all the beans are coming out, right? So when I think about when I'm looking at my posts, I try to go, okay, how would I talk to my 40-year-old friends in my midlife crisis? This is what people want to hear, because they really I'm not doing that because that's what people want to hear, but it's also who I am. I need to open the curtains and let people in as to why I really did this. It's not to buy the fancy car and do this and do that. It's literally to be able to enjoy my life more. And what's more relatable than that? I mean, I don't know everything. I don't want anyone to think that they have to know everything to do that, because again, we're not going to know everything because it's always changing. And so how would someone feel empowered to go on this journey if they feel like, oh, it's only for people who have it all figured out? Like that's impossible. So that's always just kind of my message for people.
I love what you just said, because you were like, how would I talk to my 40-year-old friends about my midlife crisis? Right? It's like,
yeah,
that really hit home for me, because it's like, for real, man. And in a way, it's kind of how I've kind of come on here and talked on Wake Up Legendary in a way. Like, it's like, I kind of reveal things about myself, like, and I kind of talk about this all the time. I was talking about this, going and, getting a dadgum vasectomy yesterday. And not particularly on Wake Up Legendary, but here I am talking about it this morning. It's like, I mean, these are the things, right? And I was kind of relating it to sales, because like I went into the doc's office. As a matter of fact, that's where I was yesterday morning when Joanne was hosting Wake Up Legendary. And it's like, the doc was like, he had this great sales energy. Like he was like, well, I've kind of, I've had 99% of them that work and 99.9% of them that work. And, you have the occasional one that doesn't. And I think in my career, I've only had, one guy who came back that I had to reverse because he had a lot of pain. And, I've kind of made a name for myself for the go-to vasectomy guy in St. Pete. But, if you're not ready, so, don't worry. But, he kind of was like doing the takeaway on me. And I mean, I just was like, man, this guy really is great at sales. And I was kind of breaking down some of the conversation. And it's like, yeah, that in 1984, you would never have talked about that or something like that. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, wow. Right. Total like, oh my God, what are you doing? But in 2024, it's like, it's like people want to hear about that. It's okay to talk about that. And I kind of realized that in 2009 and 10 when I started talking about my addiction and long-term recovery. The moment I started talking about that was actually when it started polarizing people enough to remember my story and who I was. And so that was like the most vulnerable thing that I wanted nobody to know about. And so it's like, for those of you who are, just creating content, but, and you're trying to create relatable content, relatable mom content, relatable dad content, relatable boomer content, relatable, 20s content, whatever, because that's really what you want to try to do with your personal brand nowadays, is try to create content that is relatable, that people can connect with and identify with. That vulnerability piece not only will help you to connect deeper with people, but there's also a therapeutic value that happens when you stop caring so much that you're going to be judged, and kind of just get out of your own way, and you share kind of some of that stuff. And you don't want to share something that's going to trigger you or hurt you, or that you haven't processed, right? I mean, I want to give a caveat to this, that this doesn't mean that you air your dirty laundry that hasn't been processed in a healthy way, some sort of drama or trauma in your life. And you're also not going to share it unless there's a purpose for you sharing it, right? You want to make a point with it, right? But there becomes a therapeutic value because you're now sharing parts of yourself that you feel people are going to judge you for. And when they don't, and they celebrate you for it, it creates connection. And that's kind of a cool thing. And there's a therapeutic value there. Does that resonate with you a little bit?
For sure. And there's a relatability, of course. And perfect example, I just muted myself. People want to see real life, and they don't want to listen to someone who has it all figured out, right? So I just muted myself because, and I'll bring it full circle. I muted myself because I've got someone here to do electrical in my basement. Oh, great. That's relatable. Cool. They interrupted an interview. Cool. None of us are perfect. You want to know why he's here to do electrical? Because I'm doing a basement renovation that I can pay for because I've started a side hustle. That's how you bring it back, but keep it relatable about like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. This just happened, right? So again, this whole, back in the day, it used to be, I've got it all figured out. I'm this osteo. I know everything. Listen to me and I'm going to make you better. And now it's like, no. I don't have it figured out. I'm good at what I do, and that's great professionally. It doesn't mean that my bank account is filled because my kids still get sick. So yeah, I don't know. The internet is a wild place. And what's crazy too is like, talk about relatable content. My message is always like, I'm a working mom who is tired of being tired, and working moms on here will absolutely relate to that. It's one thing after another and you rush, go. And what's crazy is the internet brings those people to you. As we know, the algorithm brings those people to you, whatever. But also within this industry, you gain internet friends, right? And you all relate to each other. And so, the struggles are real, and they're, again, transferable no matter where you live or what you do. And so I've created some pretty amazing friends online because of this business too, that literally know pieces of me that some people in my life who've been in my life for years don't know, or maybe don't know as well because they have been on this journey with me. So anyways, the internet's a wild place.
Well, I love it. Well, I'm so thankful that you came into my life, and we're sharing this kind of parallel journey together. It's really cool. I love catching up with you and you being a part of our community. So go, help your electrician with the guidance that he needs to do the job right. And thank you for carving out time for us from your busy life and all that you're doing and have going on. My best to you and your husband and your practice and your online business. Stay legendary, Care, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Rock on!
All right, bye-bye. All right, my friends, you can find Care at money.mama.care over on Instagram. You can connect with her there, follow her, learn from her, and just be a part of her journey as she continues this awesome awesome process of learning internet marketing in growing her business in such a honest, authentic, and relatable way. We love it. We love to see it, and it's what Legendary Marketer is all about. And that's what this show's all about: is showcasing our actual clients who have come through our education and taking it and ran with it. And she's certainly done that. And you know what, my friends, if you're sitting on the sidelines, it's time to get in the game and see what you can create as well. You're capable. You have what it takes. It's in there somewhere, and it's our honor to go in there and help you to find it and pull it out. So with that being said, my friends, we'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode. One more for Care. Amazing show this morning. Worth a re-listen if you came in late. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode. Peace.